Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to another card making video. So today we're going to be taking another look at the Winter Stag stamp set from issue 90 of Creative Stampin'. So the card that we're going to create today is going to be quite simple. We're going to create a really beautiful snowy silhouette scene. And the card that we're going to create is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch. So I've just cut myself a piece of white cardstock slightly smaller than that, so we get that really nice white border around the outside. And then we're going to go ahead and create a really lovely blended background on here, and of course then use some of the stamps from this stamp set. So the first thing we're going to do to create our background is we're going to use the 2 snowflake stamps that come with this set, and we are going to emboss this using white embossing powder. This will then give us a really beautiful resist of these images when we come to blend our background. So the first thing I've done is use my anti-static powder bag. This is just going to help the embossing powder not stick to any areas I don't want it to on my background. So within the set, you've got one bigger single snowflake, and then you've got a smaller cluster of 3 snowflakes. So really beautiful stamps in this set, and this is going to create a really beautiful background for us. I'm using the Versamark clear sticky ink for this. I'm not worried how perfect these are stamping or sort of how close they are together, because I am going to fill in the spaces later with some more sort of snowflakes. But I'm really just kind of plonking down wherever I think I can see, because obviously this is clear on white, you can't always exactly see where you are stamping. But again, I wasn't looking for anything sort of too perfect here. If I overlapped my images, it really didn't kind of bother me. So once I'd filled in all of the spaces that I want to, like I said, we're going to heat set this. So I am using the Sweet Dixie Glacier White Embossing Powder. So you can kind of see here as it tips in the light, you can kind of see where those snowflakes have been stamped, and that embossing powder is sticking to it. So like I said, I wasn't looking for anything too perfect at all. I was happy to have it kind of as random as possible. So I just then heat set that with my heat gun, and then when this is cooled down, we can go ahead and start doing our ink blending for our background. And like I said, this is then a heat emboss resist technique, where then these images are going to come up white after we have done our ink blending, after you sort of just buffer that embossing powder off a little bit. So I'm going to be using the Distress Oxide inks for this sort of blended background, so I really wanted to get a really beautiful blend. So I'm using the Salty Ocean and the Blueprint Sketch colours. So we're just going to go in first of all with the Salty Ocean, and then I'm just using a blending brush just to put this on. I want this to be a really smooth sort of gradient effect. So I want to have the darker Blueprint Sketch along the top, then to fade into Salty Ocean, and then I really just want it to kind of fade into that white. So I'm trying to be a little bit heavier at the top and then lighter at the bottom. So just to make sure that I didn't get any blue ink on my fingers, and then on the bottom of the card I just took a post-it note and I just stuck that to my fingers. That really just helps be able to hold the cardstock down and then also not get any sort of fingerprints or smudge marks or anything. So now I'm just going in with the Blueprint Sketch. Like I said, and then I'm just going to alternate between these colours a little bit just to get that really great blend. So I want the bottom of this to stay white. We are going to be using 2 of the sort of silhouette stamps from this stamp set. So I really do want that bottom section to stay as white as possible. So once you've got all of the ink blending done, I'm just using a microfiber cloth, and I'm just going over the embossed snowflakes, and I'm just kind of buffering off that top layer of ink on there. And it really comes up really lovely and white. So that is the heat emboss resist technique, and it works really, really well. So the next thing I'm going to do is stamp out the trees for this card. So I've just popped it into my stamping platform just in case I need to re-stamp these images, which I do end up doing. And what I'm going to do is just where the sky starts to sort of fade out into the white, that's where I'm going to put my trees. So you can see that I've done my first stamp coming off the edge, and I'm able then to fit in another set of trees just next to it to fill in that gap. But that really helps then with the area that goes between the blue and then just straight into the white, and it doesn't then sort of add any colour into sort of the majority of the trees. So the next image we're going to stamp is the little family of reindeer here, or deer, whatever it might be, and we're just going to stamp this up again. So I'm using the Versafine Onyx black ink for this. I do end up again stamping this a couple times. I just wanted to get a really solid image since this is a silhouette stamp. I really love having the black and white with then that coloured sky. I think it works really well together, and I do really love those trees. Of course, you could colour these trees in, but I really love how they look just black and white, and I think it works really well with the silhouette animals. So the next thing I'm going to do is just fill in the gaps with this Jelly Roll white pen. So I think this Jelly Roll pen is really great, much better than the Uniball white pen that I was using. You can literally just dab the pen to the paper and you get a dot of ink there. So I think it is really great if you are looking for a white gel pen. So once then we've got that sky finished, I think it really just sort of finishes the card off nicely. It doesn't leave sort of lots of gaps, and again it does look like a proper sort of snowy scene. So next thing I'm going to do is pop a sentiment on the card. So again, really great sentiments with this stamp set, and again, like always, I really love the different fonts that they use together. I think it just makes it more interesting, and then you've got, you know, your certain words that just look much better and sort of help them stand out a little bit. So the sentiment that I've picked is "You are as unique as a snowflake." So again, that's why I wanted to make sure I got the actual snowflakes in there, not just those white dots, so then we were able to use this sentiment. So I stamped the sentiment onto some black cardstock, and then I heat embossed this with the Sweet Dixie Glacier White embossing powder again. So I was going to have this as a banner coming in from the left-hand side, but then I kind of felt that left side looked a little bit heavy, having the animals stamped on that side as well. So I decided just to trim it down and use it as just a basic sentiment coming in from the right-hand side of the card. So that is now all of the elements for the card finished, so we just need to pop it all together. So to help add a little bit of dimension to this card, I am going to use a piece of funky foam, and that's going to support the entire back piece of this panel. So I just cut my funky foam down just smaller than the panel. I popped some double-sided tape on both sides of it, and then we can attach our panel onto our card. So I did make a top folding card. So like I said at the beginning, this is a 4.5 by 5.25 top folding card. I've then got my sentiment on a foam square, just again to give that a little bit more dimension, and that is then the outside of the card all finished. So I did decide to decorate the inside, so I'm going to bring my stamping platform back in because I want to have another go at using the distressed oxides to stamp the images with. So I took this tree image again, and I decided to stamp this in the blueprint sketch, and I think it actually came out really well. I think maybe the key here is just to stamp it a couple of times maybe, but I was really pleased with how it came out because this is then just the only colour that we have used on the card itself. So then for the sentiment as well, so I did then use the Salty Ocean, and then again we've used a sentiment that's got two different star fonts. So we've got Peace, Love and Heartfelt Thoughts. So again, I just think those sort of variation on fonts on a sentiment are really perfect. So that is our card all finished. So I do really love how this came out, like I said, with the black and the white, and then just using those blue shades. I think it's worked really perfectly together. So that's it for this video. You will find links to the products in the description box down below and a link to my blog, so be sure to go and check that out. So if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.